Ladies and gentlemen, I am back on the airwaves. It is your boy David from Top Bunk Sports, and it feels so good to be back. Man, I took a really good, long, comfortable break just to spend some time with family, dealing with work stuff, and other private things behind the scenes, and just really try to enjoy the Knicks playoffs. There was a lot of Knicks playoff content that I wanted to make, but I didn't make. Um, there was a lot of things that I wanted to do in terms of the Mets, obviously with the season kind of starting and everything like that. I did do some of this, Mets serious contents that you guys see there. I did my last video on the Mets was the May or Meh video that I did for Juan Soto in terms of his struggles within the first 2 months of the season. After that, like I said, I took a break. The Knicks playoffs was on. I wanted to just do what I needed to do behind the scenes in terms, like I said, with private stuff, family issues and whatnot. But after taking that long break, I was like, yo, let's get back into the shape of things. Obviously, I have another podcast with my guys from Mets Twitter, Chris Torres and AP and Amish. For those of you that follow us on the Seven Express podcast, we just did a live yesterday, so make sure you guys go check that out. Make sure you guys follow the Seven Express podcast on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Do all that good stuff because we're cooking. We cooked a really good live yesterday. Just again, natural conversations, no bullet points. Probably a few here and there, but nothing crazy. As we we're trying to get back on the swing of things because we also did take a break at the Southern Express podcast, especially with the horrendous month of June that this New York Mets team had. But with that being said, let's get into the nitty gritty of things. So, when they got into June, right, they went 9-2 in their first, I would say, 7 games, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and they got off to a good start. We were like, okay, June is here. June baseball is here. We're back in business, whatever, right? So maybe I would say yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The first 8 games, they went 9-2. 9-2. Actually, no. What am I talking? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's let me see. It's 2-0, 2-1, 3-1, 3-2, 4-2, 5-2, 6-2, 7-2, 8-2, 9-2. So excuse me. The first 13 games of the month, they went 9-2, right? And then they ended up facing the Tampa Bay Rays at home, and they got swept. The first game they lost 7-5. The second game they lost 8-4. Third game they lost 9-0, right? Then you go into Atlanta, right? You have a 6-game road trip where you have 3 in Atlanta and then 3 in Philadelphia. They got swept by the Braves and lost 2 out of 3 from the Philadelphia Phillies. They lost 5-4 in the first game against Atlanta, 5-0 in the second game, and then 7-1 in the third game. Then they go to Philly. They lose 10-2. Then the second game they won 11-4. So we kind of thought, okay, they got to win in Philly, especially an offensive dominating game. But then the third game they lose 7-1. So they're back into the same momentum. Then they got a 4-game series against Atlanta in New York at Citi Field. They lose the first 2 games. The first game they lost 3-2. And then the second game they lost 7-4. So at that point, you're like, all right, yeah, this team right now needs as much help as they could get. The bullpen is not helping. The guys went down. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was forgot what game it was. Kodai Senga got hurt in one of the games. Kodai Senga got hurt, and it looked like Kodai Senga. It looked like Kodai Senga, pulled something, and he did. He went up. There was a ground ball to Pete. He went to go cover first base, and Pete kind of threw him a high throw, and he went and he jumped to go get it. And when he jumped, he felt something as he went to jump and go get it. So that kept him out of action. Um, You go back into the Atlanta series, if I'm not mistaken, I think we won 7-3 in that one. Griffin Canning got hurt. Griffin Canning went to go get a dribbler that was going down a shortstop third base, even though it looked like Francisco Lindor had that. Griffin Canning for whatever reason got off the mound and went straight to the ball, and something immediately just popped. Something like it tore, and it was his Achilles. So Griffin Canning is out for the rest of the season. So that one stunk, right? Guys are getting hurt left and right. Jose Budo got hurt. The Daniel Nunez got hurt, and this is all happening while the offense is just putrid. The offense is literally just they sucked. They absolutely sucked, and we had games where they were scoring runs at certain points, but dude, it's just like, oh my god. I mean, again, it I would say the struggles happen due to runners in scoring position. That's what I would say. The struggles happen because of runners in scoring position. They were hitting the balls, they were getting base hits. But every time they had a runner in scoring position, it never went well. It never did. It never did. And that was kind of the tail of the month. You had the struggling bullpen. Your starters would again keep you in games, but you had the bullpen who was struggling, and then you had the offense where they just couldn't score and run in with runners in scoring position. So after we split the series with Atlanta at home, then we had to go to Pittsburgh for three, and we got swept. And it wasn't nothing like it was a back and forth game. No, 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 no. We got our asses kicked. First game, we lost 9-1. Second game, we lost 9-2. Third game, we lost 12-1. We got completely outplayed and completely destroyed. That series right there reminded me of when we were struggling in 2021, I believe in the second half of the year or the first half of the year. Right near where the trade deadline was. So it's the second half of the year. If you remember when we had won one game, but we lost two. We lost the first two, and that 2021 team just struggled. They couldn't find anything. They just couldn't muster anything up. Remember in that third game, we won 6-5. We were tied 5-5. And it was Michael Conforto that hit a home run to dead center, and we won. We won that game. We won that game because of his home run. It was a game-winning home run, and it was almost like a sigh of relief because we were losing so many games at that point. But then the Mets would continue to lose games and lose games and lose games. So that series reminded me of that patch right there in 2021. This team is far way better than that 2021 team, but just that losing streak and just having to deal with the fact that they just couldn't they didn't look comfortable in June. And again, all the injuries also played a factor in there. So you kind of sit there and you're kind of like, okay, like what the hell needs to happen? What needs to change? So just a couple stats going into the month of June. The Mets played 33 games in June. They won 16 games and lost 17 games, right? Their overall record for the season at the end of June was 52-39. Now, some of you may be like, well, it's 52-39. For people that don't watch the game, you're not understanding the frustration of what we're seeing. You look at the schedule and like, damn, they lost a good amount of games in June. Yeah, they did. But it was just the way they lost it. You know what I'm saying? It's the way they lost it. The starting rotation keeping you in check at some point, keeping you in games, and the offense not being able to really do much. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the shit that sucked. The Mets offense average was 245. They scored 402 runs, which ranked them 13th in the league, and they hit 118 home runs in total. The Mets had a team ERA of 3.54, which ranked them sixth in the league with a whip of 1.30. And then it says the Mets bullpen had an ERA of 3.70, which ranked them 12th in the league, and they had 23 saves, and they were 4-3 against the Dodgers this season, which is actually true. I'm actually look that up. Let me see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Were they 4-3? Yeah, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4-3. 4-3 against the Dodgers, which is I would say was not in June. The first series was not in June; it was in May. But if you're looking at it from a standpoint, you're looking at it from a standpoint of how they started in June, right? They split the series with LA. So that was kind of like a little bit of a frustrating one because you could have taken the way that those games were in LA, you could have taken 3 out of 4, or you could have swept them. But again, not being able to continue to score with runners in scoring position and then having the bullpen kind of fuck you up in a way. Excuse my language. I tend to curse at times. The bullpen not being able to hold it down really gave the Dodgers a chance in almost every game, and you lost it. You lost those two games. Obviously you took two, which in a split, especially against a good team like that, you want. But you're sitting there, you're like, damn, like we could have at least taken 3 out of 4. We could have swept them. So that right there is the frustration that we've had to go through within the month of June. Um, Again, you're expecting guys to come back with Kodai Senga. You're expecting Shamanaya to come back. Obviously, Frankie Montas has came back. Frankie Montas has not been as bad as people would have thought. He's kept the Mets in games. I mean, you look at his game against Atlanta, and if I am not mistaken, I believe that was the third, probably the third game, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. That Let me see. Let me see. No, I was Clay Holmes. Okay, Clay Holmes got the W for that. Shout out to Clay Holmes. I believe that was the 4 nothing game that he pitched. No, that was Warren actually. Let me see. I know he pitched. Actually the fourth game. Excuse me. When it goes back to the Griffin Canning injury, that was the fourth game where we won 4 nothing. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Frankie Montas pitched the third game. No, it actually was. He pitched the game. He pitched the game, and I think it was. Let me see. I think it was a the one we lost. Damn it! It might have been the one we lost. No, nope. So it might have been. Yeah, it might have been the 7-4 game. Let me see. Let me see. Again, I'm doing this. Mid recording. Yeah, yep. So we lost this game 7-4. Obviously, like I said, the bullpen crumbling. um, the Mets offense came through in the beginning, but it was the bullpen that kind of struggled later on. If you just look at Montas stats that game, 5 innings, gave up only 3 hits, gave up 0 runs, 0 earned runs, 3 walks, and 5 Ks. For Frankie Montas to come in against an Atlanta Braves team that again is struggling really bad, but they got quality hitters on that team. For him to pitch the way he did with all the expectations of how bad he was in the minors and how inconsistent he was and how bad certain pitches looked, for him to come in here and do that in his first game back at home against a good hitting team like the Braves, that that says a lot. That says a lot, and it's like it's something that you needed because it's before he came back. It's always been reported, and it's a fact. The Mets need Frankie Montas as much as anybody right now. The Mets need as much length as they can get from Frankie Montas because of the struggles within the rotation, the injuries in the rotation, and guys not being able to really push through. And so far, he's done a really good job. His only bad start, well, I would say it wasn't that bad. He kind of just struggled in the first two innings of the game, and then he kind of settled in, even though he gave up 6 runs. So it's still bad in my eyes, but he found the groove in there. The offense just wasn't doing anything that game. His only bad start was against the Pittsburgh Pirates. That was it. That was literally it. His start against the Braves, phenomenal. His start against the Yankees last weekend, it's great. I would say good. I wouldn't say great, but I would say good. It was what you needed. Kept the Mets in it. The offense gave him a lot of support. So Frankie Montas has been a big help, and I hope that if he's going to be part of the starting rotation, then we see some type of like a different side of Frankie Montas where everybody looks at it like a Sevy thing, right? we compare Frankie Montas and Sevy so much because Frankie Montas was Sevy's replacement. You know what I'm saying? The Mets didn't think Severino was worth what he got with the Athletics. So they got Frankie Montas on a 2-year, $34 million deal, where I was like, he's not even worth that much. But the Mets have a pitching lab that has proven that it could be successful at times. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, but it's been a successful thing for a lot of people. When you're looking at a Frankie Montas, you see how much he struggles, and he's not that good of a pitcher. But if you could get something out of him in terms of a good amount of ground balls, I mean, he throws a high velocity fastball. When he pitched against the Yankees on Saturday, he was throwing 97, 98 fastball for most of the game. His velocity is there. It's his location. The location is where it fucks him up because now what he's doing is, yeah, he's gonna throw you a high velocity fastball. The problem is he's leaving it over the plate a lot, and that allows people to take him yard, hit in the gaps because he doesn't know where to locate his fastball. He just leaves everything over the plate, and that's his problem. That's always been his problem. I've always said about Frankie Montas, damn, this guy has a really good curveball and a solid changeup, and he throws a really, really strong fastball. Why the hell is this guy's record so much? Why does he get hit a lot? Because of his location. When you're a pitcher and you can locate the certain parts of the strike zone and your pitches are on, for example, my slider might not be on point today, right? But if my fastball's on point, I can locate it and they're not touching me, I'll be fine. I might give up maybe what 2 or 3 hits with the fastball, or I may give up 5 or 6 hits with the slider. And I'm noticing that every time I go to my slider, it's not doing its break. It's not doing its motion. It's staying flat. And I go to my fastball and I can locate it. It's a win. It's a win. So with him, it's like, he throws a really good changeup and a really good curveball, and he has a really good fastball, but he can't locate it. And that's why you're seeing the amount of hits that he's given up. You're seeing the home runs that he's given up. He threw a nice fastball to Tommy Pham, right? It was like 98, I would say. A 98 miles per hour fastball. And Tommy Pham got the barrel to it and took it the other way. Why? Because he left it in the fucking middle top part of the strike zone. You know what I'm saying? Like he can't locate it at times, and that's always been his struggle as a starting pitcher. I mean, again, if you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, if you're a Yankee fan who's seen a pitch while he was still healthy, if you're a Milwaukee Brewers fan, hell, if you're an Athletics fan, I was gonna say Oakland, but they're in Sacramento now. If you're an Athletics fan, and y'all have seen him pitch when he was on your team, if you see this video, let me know if I'm correct, because that's what I've seen from the research that I did. Even with the day they signed him, I was taking a look at his highlights and I was noticing, okay, this guy leaves a lot of things over the plate. Sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. But that's always been his issue. So, I don't want to make this a Frankie Montas thing because it's I'm just recapping the month of June, recapping the month of July. It's not gonna be a long video. But again, it's definitely something that people should take note because this is a guy that they gave a 2-year, $34 million deal to. He's gonna be in our rotation unless, knock on wood, something happens. You got, like I said, you got Senga coming back, you got Shamanaya coming back. Clay Holmes is obviously having a good year so far. Um, yeah, that's and then on top of that, obviously, you don't have Griffin Canning, but you have David Peterson who's having a solid year. Uh, you can't ask more for David Peterson and what the hell, he's gonna do. So, shout out to them, shout out to him. Just overall, like I said, it's gonna take a lot. It's gonna take a lot. And so far, once your starting rotation comes back, the predicted starting rotation before everybody got hurt, then it's like, okay, now that we have the regular starting lineup that we were supposed to have, let's see how this shit works. So before I get out of here, right now, I don't want to make it too long. I just want to obviously go down the schedule for the next 6 games, then the Mets are on the road trip. I'm recording this July 8th. So the Mets actually play today, and they start a series in Baltimore, and then they go to Kansas City for 3 before they get into the All Star break. So they got, like I said, they got 3 with Baltimore, including Game 1 today, and then they go to Kansas City for 3. And Kansas City right now, Kansas City's playing some really good baseball. That well, solid baseball, I would say. They don't got a winning record, but they're playing okay baseball as of late. But your probables for today would be, let me see. Your probable for today is going to be Clay Holmes versus who is this? Who is this kid? Versus Brandon Young. Brandon Young has a record of 0-3 with a 7.2 ERA. So he's only pitched 4 games, so we'll see how that goes. I believe your probables for tomorrow is going to be David Peterson versus who is this? Tamayoki Sangano, right? And then your game 3 probable is going to be determined. So you might see another bullpen game. How could be Jose Budo that might just start. We'll see how that goes. They might use a Chris Davinsky. They might use what's his name? A hanger Justin Hanger a hanging man. They might call up McLean. Even though David Stearns already came out and said he doesn't want to use a starter for a spot start. And even though you need one of those guys to come up right now, he doesn't want to use a starter for a spot start. So you might see one of those 2 guys who pitched in the Subway Series just last weekend start that game for game 3, and they'll go against the veteran Charlie Morton. So those are your 3 probables for the Baltimore series coming up. Guys, the Mets have started July with a good and on a good way. They took 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee. They took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees, and so far they're looking to dominate this 6 game road trip before they go into the All Star break, and then try to get off to a good start in the second half of the season. So let's see how July treats us. Obviously, June didn't treat us as well as we would have liked, but fresh month. Let's see what this hot weather and how this schedule treats us, because it's not as bad as people think. I would say the 3 hardest teams you're probably going to face is Cincinnati, because they're playing good right now, the San Francisco Giants, who are playing good baseball this year, and the San Diego Padres. And I would say I don't take any team, even I don't even take Baltimore lightly, because baseball is baseball, and it always be the teams that you think you should beat that end up beating you and really taking you down. But I would say they probably have a good chance of taking 2 out of 3 from Cincinnati. I would say San Francisco and San Diego would be just a little bit more of a challenge, but they could beat those teams as well. But other than that, man, a good start to July. Let's keep it going, guys. I appreciate you for tuning into this video, always supporting the channel. Make sure you guys like, follow, share, and subscribe. Retweet this video, post it up on Instagram, like it, share it, and do all those good things, especially on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. And I will check you guys on the next video. Peace out, and let's go Mets.